It all started with the death of a woman who lived alone. Her body was discovered after months of rotting on the floor of her apartment. Every day her cat gnawed on her flesh. This was obviously not how the deceased had envisioned her end. Everybody Loves Me When I'm Dead is about the 30 million Thai baht that was found in a dormant account belonging to Jit, a woman so lonely that no one even noticed that she'd been missing for months. To, the vice manager of a bank, had been struggling to make ends meet. He wanted to provide his daughter, Snow, the best life, and that dream had a hefty price tag. The bank manager preferred young employees, and To feared that soon he too would lose his job. With piling bills, overwhelming responsibilities, a mediocre job, and a grand dream, To was losing control of his life. So when his junior colleague, Pech, who often used to help him with his tasks, suggested they empty one of the dormant accounts, he couldn't say no. He'd already found out that Jit had 30 million baht in her account, and considering To's financial situation, Pech knew that he wouldn't reject the idea. To was hesitant at first, but he realized that the move was the only way he could afford the life he wanted to offer to his family. While To had bills to pay, Pech had crossed paths with one of Pattaya's gangsters. They wanted him to pay for the damages caused after his bike clashed with their Rolls-Royce. But it was a vicious loop, and even after clearing the bill, the gangster, SEK, refused to let go of him. He'd figured out that Pech must have cracked some code to pay the money he owed, so he wanted the entire pie for himself. After torturing Pech, he confessed to withdrawing money from a dormant account at his bank. Meanwhile, To chose not to empty the account at one go because he was afraid that his boss, Wat, would get suspicious. To had access to Wat's account, so when he stepped out of his office, To deleted the mail that was sent immediately after he had activated the dormant account. He finally gathered the courage to withdraw 4 million baht and split it between him and Pech. He chose to deposit his share to a young girl's bank account. He'd offered to pay her 10,000 baht to transfer the money to her account. But the very next day, the money was gone. Turns out, the girl wasn't as innocent as he'd assumed her to be. She and friends had withdrawn the money he transferred, and they threatened to kill him if he dared to show up at their spot again. To needed more money, so he decided to withdraw 25 million. He knew it would draw suspicion, but he was desperate. Quite expectedly, Wat found out about the withdrawal, and he confronted To. He instructed him to put the money back into the bank and resign from the job voluntarily in exchange for not revealing his secret. To tried to explain his situation, but Wat refused to listen. He left the bag full of cash and walked away defeated. While he was in the parking lot, he noticed Wat carrying the bag. He'd rejected To's offer to split the money, because he had every intention of keeping it all for himself. After To found out that Pech was involved with gangsters, he asked them to get the money from Wat. He wanted to seek revenge on his boss, but he didn't expect them to kill him. After looting the 25 mil found at Wat's apartment, SEK asked To to keep withdrawing more money if they wanted to stay alive. To and Pech cleaned up Wat's apartment and hid his body in a large chest. Vodka was a hitman who worked for Kamnan, an infamous gangster with influence. One day after killing a man who'd accepted payment but didn't do the job as promised, Kamnan told Vodka the trick about keeping one's money safe. He mentioned that he'd opened an account in his maid's name, but she ran off with his money. His men searched for her, but they couldn't find her. Until one day he learned that she'd died. Although his maid had a daughter, she had no idea that her mother, Jit, had left her 30 million baht. For Kamnan, 30 million baht wasn't enough money to lose his sleep over, and moreover, he knew that the money would remain safe forever. After listening to the entire story, Vodka stopped driving the car and attacked Kamnan. He poured alcohol on him and set him on fire. His plan was simple: find Jit's daughter and convince her to withdraw the money and hand it over to him. The only problem was he didn't know that there were others who'd already claimed the money. Ken didn't share a pleasant relationship with Jit. Her mother had given her up for adoption, and she was raised by her aunt. Jit tried to reconnect with her after stealing the money from her boss, but Kem wasn't interested in keeping any contact with her. So, when Vodka found her and told her that her biological mother had stolen cash from his boss and she needed to hand it over to them, she neither suspected Vodka nor did she consider keeping the cash for herself. She didn't mind assisting Vodka in getting the money back, and that was how they ended up at the bank where To and Petch worked. When Kem showed her ID and tried to establish that she was Jit's daughter, Petch was stunned. He consulted To, who further suggested Kem show more evidence to prove her claim. Even after Vodka produced a birth certificate before them, they refused to accept the proof. Kem didn't expect Vodka to have her birth certificate, so he explained that he got it from her mother's apartment. Kem realized that Vodka was a dangerous man, considering he had broken into her mother's apartment and stolen a piece of document to get his hands on the money. She wanted to see his reaction if she refused to help him, and the minute she said so, he got furious. He chased her, but thankfully Petch came to her rescue. The two got into a scuffle, and Kem helped Petch knock Vodka unconscious, and they escaped. They took shelter at a beer bar, and Petch couldn't help but ask her why she even trusted Vodka. Kem simply wanted to make amends, and she didn't think that the situation would be so complicated. She didn't regret not staying in touch with her mother even after she contacted her. She simply could never forgive Jit for abandoning her, and she didn't think she owed her mother anything at all. Petch seemed to feel deeply about Jit's tragic death. The fact that she died completely alone made him feel sorry for her. During Everybody Loves Me When I'm Dead's ending, a man was seen robbing Jit's apartment before stumbling upon her dead body and running away. The face mostly remains blurry, but the man somewhat looked like Petch. He was in need of cash, so maybe he showed up at Petch's apartment because he knew she lived alone. Perhaps he'd been keeping an eye on the place, and since there was no movement at all, he assumed she was not home, and he tried to rob her. This possibly explains why Petch felt the way he did. After Petch updated To about their situation, he figured it would be best for them to arrange a confrontation between Vodka and SEK. He was hopeful that they would kill each other, and he would get to take the cash home. Since Petch brought Vodka to SEK's den, he was displeased, and he immediately shot him. After everything Petch did to pay his debt and live a life of peace, a bullet in his head was all that he ended up with. Vodka was an unstoppable killer, and after a gruesome fight, he took down most of SEK's men, though he got injured in the process. His favorite method of getting rid of people was setting them on fire, and he did the same with SEK. The gangster who thought he was undefeatable died a painful death. Meanwhile, To had been waiting for the right opportunity to strike. As soon as most of SEK's men were dead, he grabbed hold of a gun and shot down the rest. He was about to shoot Vodka, but the man was a skilled fighter, and it didn't take him much effort to overpower To and point the gun in his direction. Kem came to To's rescue. She held a syringe, likely filled with Botox/sedative since she provided beauty treatment at home, to Vodka's neck and threatened to push it in if he didn't oblige. She was ready to let Vodka walk away with the money, and all she wanted in return was for him to stop the bloodbath. To wasn't quite happy with the deal, but considering he was not in a position to make a better offer, he had no choice but to watch Vodka walk out with the bag full of cash. He even attempted to shoot Vodka, but he discovered there was no bullet left in the gun he possessed. During the ending of Everybody Loves Me When I'm Dead, a car with a pig sticker stopped in front of Vodka, and an unidentified man used a machine gun to kill him. The same pig sticker was previously spotted when Vodka and Kamnan killed a man in the woods. The car likely belonged to the man. He mentioned that Kamnan and Vodka could keep all his stuff and his car, and he was perhaps the leader of another gang. He was killed after he failed to do the job Kamnan had asked of him. So, someone from his gang tracked down Vodka and murdered him. Now, if the car belonged to Kamnan, then of course, it was his men who'd killed Vodka. Surprisingly, they didn't take the money, suggesting that perhaps they had no clue about it.